start this hour with breaking news from the Middle East. Israeli forces say they've completed their withdrawal from the Netzarim corridor in central Gaza. Now, that is the road which separates North and South Gaza and was controlled by Israeli troops. You can see it marked here on the map with that red line. Now, the move was a condition of the ceasefire deal with Hamas. And I want to take you to the live pictures from Gaza City, where you can see that there are queues of vehicles on that road. Now, we've seen them moving along the Salah al-Din road after the Israeli forces pull out of the Netzarim corridor. We've also seen people walking along that road. Others have been on donkeys, and you can see how that traffic has built up in that area, with people trying to move from the south back into the north, many of them trying to get back to see what is left of their homes. Here's another angle that we have where you can see those vehicles are moving. Now, our correspondent in Jerusalem, Joe Inwood, has more on the significance of the withdrawal of the troops from that road.
We had it reported yesterday that this was going to happen, and then those pictures that we can see, Nikki, that shows that the Israeli forces have withdrawn back. Just to give people a sense of the geography, if the Gaza Strip runs like that, the Salah al-Din road runs alongside, kind of parallel with the coast, and the Netzarim corridor, this is the bit that the Israeli forces have withdrawn from, that cuts it in half, basically separating the north from the south. And so them withdrawing is not just about their forces pulling back, it should allow increased access, increased freedom of movement for the people of Gaza. Now, we should say that's one of the conditions. There's another road that runs north to south that is in between Gaza and Egypt, the Philadelphia corridor. They are still there, and they're not moving at this point. But this is an important moment, and I think, and it shows that the ceasefire, which has been feeling increasingly fragile. We had both the condition of the hostages that we saw yesterday and the anger around that, but I think more the suggestion by President Donald Trump that Gaza should be depopulated has led to a sense of increasing fragility of this deal. But I think this is don't want to overstate it, but this is another sign that the ceasefire is holding and is continuing.
Yeah, on the ceasefire deal, of course, there are talks set to take place in Qatar with both Israel and Hamas saying they will continue the negotiations. What do we know about what's going to go on in Qatar?
So both sides say they will be sending delegations. I think the Hamas delegation has been there already, and the Israelis will be turning up over the next few days. We don't have precise timelines. But what we know the Israelis want to talk about first is technical matters surrounding phase one. Just to remind people, the ceasefire deal is split into three phases. Phase one is where we are now. It's 42 days long, sees 33 hostages released in exchange for a large number of Palestinian prisoners and detainees. Phase two, this is the most consequential one in many ways, because it would see what they call a sustainable calm, basically a permanent end to the fighting, and the release of all remaining living Israeli hostages. We think that what they're going to discuss at first is technical issues around phase one before they move on to the issues around phase two. It's also worth pointing out that Prime Minister Netanyahu is on his way back from Washington, where we've had these quite consequential discussions with the Americans. And I think the Israeli negotiators aren't going to be empowered to talk about phase two until he has discussed what his conditions are with his cabinet.